Hey there, Soul to Spirit community. Thanks for tuning into another episode of the show. This is Stacy, the creator and host of the Soul to Spirit, and I'm on a not-so-secret mission to promote wellness for water women. Today, I'm joining you from my cozy tea lab in Ventura, my new favorite place to record these breadcrumb episodes. I'm also sipping on some mint, rosemary, and cardamom tea, which is just lovely on this gloomy October day. I know, feel sorry for me. So a few months ago, I put up a post on my Instagram about my personal finances, and I talked about how I sold my new car that was, well, at the time, a 2016 Toyota Corolla, and I traded it in for a 1990 pickup truck, which turned out to be an awesome and beneficial decision, not only for me, but for my husband and I collectively. This allowed me to stash that extra $7,000. And let me tell you, every dollar counts when you're buying a fixer-upper house, especially in California. Now, as a result of your comments, I realized this was a pretty hot topic. I think people are really yearning for more transparency with finances in general. It's still such a taboo topic that we keep hush-hush even in 2020. So some of the questions I know always whirling around our heads are, how much money do you make? How much debt do you have? How much do you have in savings? Do you have investments, student loans? Okay, I know all of these topics are far too much to cover in one breadcrumb video, of course, so I'm going to break it down for you into, well, breadcrumbs. Okay, that was cheesy, but it just fit. Also, I just want to call out that COVID-19 has impacted us all very, very differently when it comes to finances. So for this reason, I think it's getting even more difficult to talk about finances. Layoffs, furloughs, so many businesses suffering and even closing, individual employee morale. And if you're in the corporate world, but if you're an entrepreneur, like its own set of challenges, or you're just trying to make it through the day and have enough to put food on your table, right? The list is endless right now. So for me personally, I've had to focus on what I can control, what's in front of me right now, here now, today, and what are my new financial goals now that COVID is kind of in the driver's seat for a little while. We can go down a deep, dark Alice in Wonderland hole very, very quickly if we allow ourselves. So this is why I'm sharing a breadcrumb video on this today and how I stay positive and in control of the driver's seat as much as possible during COVID, and how I'm managing my day-to-day finances during COVID. So I wanted to share this goal with you guys. I set a goal called No Spend October. What did this mean exactly? Well, it meant that I was only spending money on the essentials, which in my world is basically 8 different categories. So you can actually bop over to my blog as I shared an actual screenshot of my budget and my finances for the month of October, how many dollars I allot to each of those 8 categories and what those 8 categories are. I'm also going to go through them really, really quickly here just to kind of level set the stage and share that with you high level. So keep in mind, your categories are obviously going to look very different than mine, but here's a list of my top 8 categories for October that is considered essential spending to me. So number 1, groceries, food, we have to eat, duh, right? So that's my number 1 budget and kind of high ticket item where I spend most of my money. Very seldom do we go out to eat. I might spend now like $20 a month on going out to eat, but when I say food, it's mostly groceries and cooking at home. Number 2, food and supplies for my animals. I have animals and they are a top priority for me and take a little bit of my personal budget. Number 3, my fixed charity donation. For me, this is non-negotiable and something I've been doing for a couple of years, and I always just make sure it's a priority. If I have to cut other things, I do, but donating to charity, sometimes it's different charities, is something that's critical for me. So I have to work it in. A small allotment for gifts and cards. For example, in the month of October, I had 2 really special birthdays, my brother and my sister-in-law, who also turned 40. So just sending them cards, budgeting $10-15 in for a couple of little things was important to me. Number 5, standing subscriptions, which For the most part, I actually canceled most of my subscriptions when COVID first started to take over the world because I think we were all tightening up our finances a little bit. So pretty much the one subscription that I have left remaining, again, for me, this is non-negotiable, is Whoop. You guys have heard me talk a little bit about Whoop, and this is about $30 a month for me. It's a wearable tracking device that tracks heart rate and recovery, sleep, all kinds of things that are really important to me right now. Number 6, so farm supplies for Tequila Farm. So this is soil for my herbs. I just fertilized my trees, my fruit trees, our citrus trees. So I built in about $50 for that. Number 7, 1 book per month. This is kind of splurging a little bit, and technically I probably should just cut this down if I'm really being tight with my money. But I decided to splurge for the month of October and build in a book budget because when I was voting and I was sending in my ballot early, one of the categories that I really honestly wasn't familiar with was for this director position of an organization called United Water Conservation. And the candidate I ended up voting for in my particular district in Ventura is Muhammad Hassan, and he wrote a book called Drought is Not a 4-Letter Word. He has extensive history and experience. He's an engineer, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about his academic work, how he could contribute to the local board here, what his values are, and what he could contribute to the board, I guess, in general. So I'm actually kind of excited to nerd out and dig into his book. And also, I mean, his approach is really around climate change and talking about that very difficult, complex topic. So I really wanted to hear what Muhammad said about that. So, and then my last category is gas for my truck, that 1990 truck that I actually call farm truck. And that kind of gets me around town to get my groceries or go to the beach to surf or wild swim. So overall, what does this picture look like for me? I'm going to be super transparent. My goal was to keep this spending for the month of October to $1,000. Historically, I have spent much more than that. And this doesn't include my mortgage payment contribution or my contribution to savings, which really comes first before anything else here. This is just my day-to-day spending that can either get really messy or really magical if I manage it well. Here's my number one secret that I want to share with you guys in this breadcrumb video, and that is I look at my finances every single day. Now, I know you're probably rolling your eyes at me, and that's totally fine, but you're watching this video for a reason. So why do I look at my finances every day, and what does that look like? Well, probably because I neglected looking at them or even acknowledging them for so many years that I'm kind of making up for lost time. And this is just a quick 3 to 5 minute glance. I open up my budgeting software, which is called YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget. It's not a free software, but my husband and I have tried a lot of different softwares and we really like this one. But I think there's plenty of free softwares out there like Mint and other things that will help you as well. But I'm looking at that. I like to pop into my savings account just to, even though I know what numbers in my head, it's a reminder of why it's important for me to prioritize savings first. And then of course, looking at that budget, those 8 categories, sometimes those fluctuate a little bit. Am I going to meet my $1,000 this month? Where do I need to cut? Where do I need to be careful? So looking at this for a quick 3 to 5 minutes, pretty much every morning as part of my morning routine, tells me if I'm on schedule for the week and for the month. Now, you guys have been so awesome and so supportive following along on Chad and I's adventure buying this fixer-upper. And honestly, we have kind of a ridiculous but exciting vision for this house. This Northern Star idea that we call it, and that we've called it Tequila Farm. And for this reason, if I am going to make all of these crazy ideas come to fruition, then I needed to be more diligent with my finances. So I decided to do this breadcrumb video today just to share a personal look into my finances, because I will be the first to admit that this is something I've historically sucked at for so many years, and it's always a work in progress for me. Talking about money with Chad, or even looking at it myself and looking at my own budget, can still make me a little squirmy. So I'm here to let you know that you're not alone. The biggest thing in closing this breadcrumb video is to tell yourself or remind yourself that Don't beat yourself up about your finances. There's no point in that, you guys. We badger ourselves about enough things these days. So as I like to say, just keep dusting yourself off every morning like I do. Reset that budget if you get off track. Look at your finances as much as it makes sense for you and try to build it in as a habit. Just like you have like your coffee or your tea every morning, make looking at your finances part of that morning habit, to take a minute to just open it up and take a look at it. Getting in the habit and being intimately familiar with your finances is better than having no relationship with your finances at all. I'm only speaking from experience. Lastly, I just want to call something out, because it's great to set goals and everything, right? But you have to know that this can always change. I mentioned my goal for no spend October, right? So this meant staying within my $1,000 budget that I just shared with you and I outlined. But life happens. So for example, I wanted to just share one of those things that really got me off track for the month, unfortunately, but it is what it is. My cat had this crazy emergency with his eye that almost ruptured, and he had a deep eye ulcer. So it was, 6 hours in a pet emergency room with him, and then a follow-up specialist appointment. And I actually have another appointment this afternoon. So I'm looking at now 3 pretty critical vet visits in the month of October. And now I'm at $778 just for my animal, over budget. So that, obviously I now missed my goal for no spend October, but the health of my pet is extremely important to me. So I'm going to, like I said, dust myself off, see if I can get my cat stabilized, and pray that nothing else crazy happens in the month of November, reset that budget for November, and just keep calm and carry on. So cheers to, like I said, staying calm, sipping your favorite tea while looking at your finances. You can do something enjoyable while you're doing something maybe not so fun. And just knowing that I've totally been there. You're not alone. Just get brave and open up that online account or your Google spreadsheet or your finance software, and know that there is still hope to just start fresh today. I hope this personal snapshot into my finances was helpful for you. Again, you can actually see the snapshot on my blog, on my website, saltedspirit.com, and I will link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this breadcrumb episode, please do me a favor and pop over to iTunes, give this podcast a rating, and let me know what you thought. What do you think about the topic of finances? Do you want to hear more about it? I would love to hear from you guys. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.